The arena was alive with energy. Thousands of spectators filled the stands, their voices rising and falling like waves as excitement spread through the air. Bright lights from alien structures illuminated the field below, casting long shadows. That made the combat zone look even more dramatic. People from different planets had gathered here. Traders, soldiers, nobles, and adventurers, all eager to witness one of the greatest challenges in the galaxy. At the center of it all, the alien warrior princess stood with an aura of confidence. Her armor shimmered in shades of silver and violet, and her long, braided hair moved slightly with the breeze. She had trained her entire life for this moment, mastering countless forms of combat, from hand-to-hand fighting to energy weapon techniques. Her reputation was well known. No one had ever lasted more than a few seconds against her in a one-on-one match. She looked around the arena, her piercing eyes scanning the crowd, daring anyone to challenge her. "You can't last a minute against me," she announced loudly, her voice carrying over the roar of the spectators. "Human, step forward if you dare. I will show you why no one can defeat me." Her words were full of pride, almost a taunt. The crowd gasped, some cheering, some laughing at the idea that any human could even think of facing her. Humans were often underestimated across galaxies. They were clever, yes, but they lacked the speed, the strength, and the experience to survive against elite alien fighters. Most aliens considered them weak. From the shadows near the edge of the arena, a human stepped forward. At first, many in the crowd barely noticed him. He was of average height, wearing simple, unadorned armor. His face was calm, showing no fear or hesitation. His dark hair was slightly messy, and his eyes were sharp, focused on the princess, as if he could read her every move already. People whispered among themselves, some shaking their heads, others laughing quietly. "He won't last a second," someone muttered. Another added, "This will be over before it even begins." Even some aliens in the audience, who were supposed to respect fairness in combat, shook their heads, certain that the human had no chance. But the human didn't speak. He didn't boast or show arrogance. Instead, he took a few deep breaths, adjusting the grip on his weapon, letting his mind calm and focus. He had prepared for this moment for years, training his body and mind in ways most humans didn't even think possible. Unlike many others who relied on raw strength, he studied opponents carefully, learning their moves, anticipating their strategies, and remaining calm under pressure. He knew this fight wasn't about speed alone or strength alone. It was about patience, timing, and understanding the opponent's mind as much as their body. The alien princess laughed, a clear, confident sound that echoed through the arena. She circled the human slowly, her movements graceful but deliberate, testing him even before the fight officially began. "You are brave," she said, "or foolish. Either way you will fall." Her eyes sparkled with challenge, and she flexed her fingers as if ready to strike at any moment. The crowd leaned forward, sensing the intensity building between them. The human met her gaze steadily, without flinching. There was no fear, no hesitation, just a quiet determination that made some spectators shift uncomfortably in their seats. Suddenly, the arena gates opened, and the combat zone itself was revealed. It was a large, circular space, filled with uneven terrain, rocks, and small obstacles. In the center, energy markers glowed faintly, signaling the official start point for the fighters. The crowd held its breath as both the princess and the human approached the center. Every step she took was controlled and powerful, demonstrating her confidence and skill. Every step he took was precise, showing balance, focus, and readiness. It seemed almost as if the two were studying each other silently, understanding that this would be more than just a test of physical strength. It would be a test of mind, reflexes, and strategy. A moment of silence fell over the arena. Even the spectators seemed to realize that the match was about to begin, and something about the human's calmness made them uneasy. Could he really survive against someone so powerful? The princess raised her weapon, a sleek metallic blade that hummed faintly with energy. "Prepare yourself," she said, her voice firm. "I will end this quickly." The human nodded once, lightly adjusting his stance, and his hand hovered near his own weapon. Unlike hers, his blade looked simpler. Less impressive, but he held it with confidence. Then the signal sounded. A sharp, high-pitched note echoed throughout the arena, and the battle officially began. The princess lunged forward with incredible speed, moving like a blur toward the human. The spectators gasped, watching her strike with precision and force. It seemed as if she might be right. The human could not possibly keep up. But to everyone's astonishment, he sidestepped her attack with perfect timing, his movements smooth and calculated. He didn't just dodge. He anticipated her every strike, remaining one step ahead without a single wasted motion. The princess's eyes widened slightly, a flash of surprise crossing her face. She had never encountered someone who could react so quickly to her attacks. Most opponents panicked or froze under pressure, but this human seemed calm, almost untouchable. The crowd erupted into murmurs, some cheering quietly, some whispering doubts. The princess herself began to slow slightly, reassessing her strategy. She realized, perhaps for the first time in her life, that she might be facing a truly worthy opponent. The human stayed focused, keeping his breathing steady and his movements precise. He didn't rush. He didn't attack recklessly. He waited, watching, learning, and adjusting. Every dodge, every block, every small movement showed his training and discipline. The princess circled him, trying to find an opening, but he was always there, countering calmly, never giving her the satisfaction of an easy hit. The arena seemed to shrink around them as the intensity of the moment grew. Spectators leaned forward, eyes wide, unable to look away. For the first time, the alien princess felt something she had never felt in combat: uncertainty. She realized that this human might not be defeated in seconds, or even minutes. She had underestimated him, relying on assumptions and arrogance instead of observing him properly. And the human, quiet and composed, knew that the first moments of this fight were only the beginning. Patience, strategy, and focus would be his greatest weapons, and if he could maintain them, he might just survive against the greatest alien warrior in the galaxy. The crowd remained on edge, sensing that this battle would be unlike any they had ever witnessed. And in that moment, as the human and the alien princess faced each other, it became clear. This fight was not just about skill or strength. It was about respect, strategy, and the power of determination. Neither side knew how it would end, but everyone knew they were about to witness something extraordinary. The battle began in earnest, and the crowd's excitement reached a new level. The alien princess moved first, her blade flashing in the light as she lunged at the human with blinding speed. Her movements were fluid and practiced, a perfect combination of power and grace. She expected him to falter, to panic under her attacks as countless others had, but the human did not. Instead, he reacted calmly, shifting his weight and sidestepping with precision. Each step he took was deliberate, each movement controlled. It was almost as if he could read her mind, predicting her strikes before they even happened. The spectators were stunned. Whispers spread quickly through the stands. "How is he moving like that? He dodged her strike. This human, he's different." The alien princess's eyes narrowed in surprise and mild irritation. She had never faced anyone who could keep up with her, let alone avoid her attacks so effortlessly. Her confidence wavered slightly, but she quickly masked it with a confident smile. She circled the human, trying to find a weakness, testing his reflexes and balance with quick jabs and sweeping strikes. The human met her challenge with calm focus, parrying and moving with a smooth rhythm. He didn't attack aggressively. Instead, He waited for the right moment to respond, conserving his energy while studying her every motion. For a moment, the fight seemed almost like a dance. The princess struck with incredible speed, spinning and twisting in the air, her blade tracing arcs of light. The human moved like water, flowing around her attacks, keeping just enough distance to stay safe, yet close enough to anticipate her next move. Every action and reaction demonstrated skill and intelligence. The crowd watched in awe, their earlier assumptions shattered. They had come expecting a quick victory for the alien princess, a fight that would end in seconds. Instead, they were witnessing a battle of wits and reflexes, a clash where strategy mattered as much as strength. The princess, growing more determined, shifted her tactics. She unleashed a series of rapid strikes, each one faster and sharper than the last. She wanted to overwhelm him with speed, to force a mistake. But the human responded with calm precision, stepping aside, blocking and occasionally countering, with light strikes that tested her defenses. It wasn't about defeating her yet. It was about surviving, studying her, and understanding her patterns. Even as he dodged and blocked, his eyes never left hers. He seemed to anticipate her moves, instinctively adjusting in real time, never rushed, never panicked. The alien princess's pride began to show cracks. She had underestimated this human from the very beginning. She had assumed that his smaller size, lighter armor, and human physiology would make him an easy target. Now, as she found herself struggling to land a decisive strike, she realized that raw strength and speed weren't everything. Skill, patience, and intelligence were just as important. The realization was both frustrating and intriguing. She had faced many opponents in her life, but none had forced her to think so carefully. None had challenged her in quite this way. As the battle continued, the human began to test her defenses. He didn't strike recklessly. Instead, he used small, precise movements to push her back, probing for openings. Each tap of his weapon, each subtle adjustment of his stance, forced her to react quickly, to adapt constantly. The princess tried to maintain her aggressive pace, but she had to think twice about every move. For the first time, she felt a tension in the fight that she had never experienced. This human was not just surviving, he was making her work for every advantage. The crowd grew louder as the fight intensified. Alien and human spectators alike leaned forward, their excitement and disbelief building. They were witnessing something extraordinary. A human challenging one of the most feared warriors in the galaxy, not with raw power, but with intelligence, strategy, and focus. Some began to cheer for the human, while others still rooted for the princess, torn between admiration and loyalty. The energy in the arena was electric. Every swing of the princess's blade and every calculated move of the human drawing gasps and cheers. At one point, the princess attempted a high-risk maneuver. She leapt into the air, spinning to strike, from above, with incredible force. Most opponents would have been caught off guard, overwhelmed by her speed. But the human anticipated her move. He sidestepped with perfect timing, using her momentum against her. The crowd erupted into stunned whispers and exclamations. The princess barely regained her balance, her eyes widening slightly. For the first time in her life, she stumbled, not from weakness, but from being truly challenged. Despite the surprise, the princess recovered quickly. Her pride would not allow her to show fear or hesitation for long. She adjusted her stance, tightening her grip on her weapon, and pressed forward with renewed determination. But the human did not falter. He remained calm, breathing steadily, his focus unbroken. Every strike she made, every maneuver, he met with precision. It became clear that this was not a fight that could be won in seconds. This would be a battle of endurance, patience, and intelligence. As minutes passed, the alien princess began to notice something unusual. She had trained her entire life to read opponents, to anticipate their attacks, yet this human seemed to anticipate her. He moved not with brute strength, but with quiet confidence, countering her every strike and adapting to every change in her strategy. The realization hit her. This human was exceptional. Not just strong, not just fast, but disciplined, smart, and unyielding. He was not the fragile creature she had assumed him to be. He was, in fact, a formidable warrior in his own right. The human's calm presence contrasted sharply with the princess's fiery energy. He didn't rush. He didn't attack with reckless force. Instead, he controlled the pace of the battle, letting her reveal her strategy while remaining safe and ready to respond. Every move was deliberate, every reaction measured. It was a style she had never faced before, a combination of patience, timing, and instinct. The princess began to respect him, even as her pride pushed her to maintain dominance. She realized that winning would require more than skill. It would require creativity, adaptability, and a willingness to learn during the fight itself. By now, the crowd was completely captivated. The fight was no longer just entertainment. It had become a story of courage, skill, and determination. Spectators watched with wide eyes as the human and the princess moved across the arena, a blur of motion and strategy. Some whispered about how humans could be underestimated, while others marveled at the princess's incredible skill and resilience. It was a battle that transcended species, a display of true warrior spirit where intelligence and patience were just as important as strength and speed. As the first clash continued, it became clear to everyone watching that this was a fight unlike any other. The human had survived the first minutes not by luck, not by chance, but by skill, strategy, and careful observation. And the alien princess, for the first time, understood that she might have underestimated an opponent based on appearances alone. The stage was set for an extraordinary battle, one that would test both warriors to their limits, challenge their assumptions, and change the way they, and everyone watching, thought about strength, skill, and determination. The battle had entered a new stage. The alien princess, once so confident in her ability to win effortlessly, was beginning to feel the strain. Her movements were still fast and precise, her strikes sharp and strong, but the human warrior matched her in ways she hadn't anticipated. Each attempt to outmaneuver him was met with calm, controlled responses. Every strike she launched, he avoided or deflected, showing not only skill, but remarkable anticipation. The crowd watched with bated breath, realizing that this fight was no ordinary spectacle. It was a contest between equals, at least in terms of wits and strategy. The princess took a moment to observe him more closely. His stance was balanced, his breathing steady and his eyes unwavering. He didn't show panic, anger, or hesitation. Instead, he seemed almost serene, moving with purpose and precision. This human was not rushing, not making careless mistakes, and that made him dangerous. The realization hit the princess. Sheer power alone would not be enough to win this battle. She had trained her entire life for combat, but she had never faced an opponent like this. Someone who could combine patience, observation, and flawless timing into one seamless style. Determined to regain control, she changed her tactics. No longer relying solely on speed, she began to feint, testing his reactions and creating openings. She performed rapid, unpredictable movements, switching from one style to another in quick succession. She launched attacks from unusual angles, attempting to catch him off guard. The human remained calm, adjusting smoothly to each change, neither overreacting nor underestimating her moves. It was as if he were learning with every strike, adapting instantaneously, a step ahead even when she tried to be unpredictable. At one point, the princess executed a powerful spinning strike, intending to knock him off balance with the force and speed of her blade. Most opponents would have stumbled or been forced backward by such a move, but the human anticipated it. He sidestepped at the perfect moment, letting her momentum carry her past him. Then, instead of counterattacking immediately, he maintained his distance, studying her recovery and waiting for another opportunity. The spectators erupted into whispers of awe. Few had ever seen a human handle an attack of such intensity with grace and skill. The princess's pride flickered. She had never been outmaneuvered in this way before. Realizing that brute force alone would not succeed, the princess decided to test his limits mentally. She began a series of complex movements, designed to confuse him, mixing speed, angle, and direction in ways that would normally overwhelm anyone. She expected him to falter, to hesitate, to make a mistake. But he did not. Instead, he moved with clarity, focus, and an almost uncanny sense of timing. Every dodge, every step, and every block was deliberate, revealing both discipline and intelligence. The crowd gasped repeatedly, unable to believe the display before them. The human wasn't just surviving, he was challenging her, pushing her to adapt and rethink her approach. The princess's respect for him began to grow, though she would never admit it aloud. She had underestimated humans for centuries, seeing them as clever but weak, fragile and unsuited for serious combat. Yet here stood one among them, a human who could stand toe-to-toe with her, anticipating her every move and even creating openings that she had to defend against. Pride and curiosity battled within her. She had never faced an opponent who could make her feel so challenged, yet at the same time so intrigued. Seeing that she could not simply overpower him, she resorted to a more aggressive strategy. She launched a rapid combination of attacks, aiming to corner him against the uneven terrain of the arena. Rocks, small obstacles, and energy markers created both hazards and opportunities, and she hoped to use them to her advantage. Each strike was faster than the last, a blur to the naked eye. Yet the human flowed around them, dodging, deflecting, and moving like water. He did not panic or falter. He simply adapted, adjusting his timing and position to stay safe while still looking for the right moment to respond. Then, in a daring move, the princess attempted a high jump, aiming to strike from above with immense speed. The force of the attack was intended to end the battle decisively, but the human's anticipation was flawless. He shifted slightly to the side, letting her momentum carry her past, and used her motion to maintain balance and readiness for the next exchange. The princess landed on her feet, surprised and slightly off balance. It was the first public stumble of her life, and it shook her confidence, even if only for a moment. The crowd gasped in amazement, sensing the shift in momentum. Instead of exploiting the stumble recklessly, the human remained composed. He did not attack immediately. He studied her recovery, analyzing her next move. His calmness, patience, and intelligence frustrated the princess. She was used to opponents faltering under pressure, yet here he remained unshaken, focused, and aware. The realization that she was not facing a typical adversary forced her to rethink her strategy entirely. Winning would not come through speed, strength, or intimidation alone. It would require careful observation, adaptability, and ingenuity. The fight continued, intense and unrelenting. Both warriors were moving at a level few had ever seen. The princess's strikes were powerful and precise, the human's counters intelligent and measured. Every movement mattered. Every misstep could have consequences. The arena itself seemed alive with tension as the two combatants pushed each other to their limits. The crowd, unable to look away, leaned forward with every swing, twist, and block. This was more than a fight. It was a master class in skill, strategy, and mental fortitude. Finally, after what felt like hours of rapid, intense exchanges, the princess paused briefly, catching her breath. She studied the human, realizing that she had misjudged him from the start. He was not weak, not fragile, not inexperienced. He was a true warrior, calm under pressure, intelligent in battle, and unafraid of facing a legend. For the first time, she felt something unfamiliar. Respect, mingled with admiration and a hint of curiosity. She had been challenged in a way, She had never anticipated, forced to see an opponent not as a lesser being, but as an equal in skill and determination. The human, sensing the shift in her attitude, did not gloat or celebrate. He remained calm, breathing steadily, watching her as she adjusted her stance and prepared for the next exchange. Both knew that this fight was far from over. The turning point had come, and the dynamics had changed. No longer was it a battle of arrogance versus humility. It had become a contest of equals, a test of endurance, intelligence, and respect. Each was learning from the other, pushing the boundaries of their abilities, and growing in understanding. The spectators, sensing the transformation, grew silent in awe. They realized that they were witnessing something extraordinary, a human surviving, and even thriving, against one of the most skilled alien warriors in the galaxy. The princess, once so proud and untouchable, was beginning to see the truth of his capability, and the human, calm and focused, was proving that skill, patience, and determination could challenge even the most legendary of opponents. It was clear that the battle had reached a new level, and that the turning point had been reached. Both fighters had evolved during the fight, their minds and bodies pushed to the limit, and as the next exchanges loomed, it was no longer just about victory. It was about learning, adapting, and discovering the true strength of the opponent, and perhaps the respect that comes with facing someone worthy of the challenge. The battle had reached a level that no one in the arena had ever witnessed before. The alien princess, once full of unchecked confidence, now moved with careful calculation. Her attacks were no longer just about force, they were about strategy, creativity, and testing the limits of the human warrior before her. Each swing of her blade, each movement of her body was meant to challenge him, to find a small weakness he might have. The human, in turn, continued to adapt, reading her movements with incredible clarity, matching her speed, anticipating her attacks, and responding with precise counters. It was no longer a battle of strength against weakness. It had become a duel of equals, a clash of minds and skill. The spectators were on the edge of their seats. Some had come expecting to see a quick victory for the princess, but now they were witnessing a fight that could go either way. Every strike, every dodge, every calculated pause drew gasps and cheers from the audience. People from different worlds were whispering to one another, trying to understand how a human could stand toe-to-toe with an elite alien warrior. Even seasoned fighters in the crowd were stunned, recognizing the incredible display of patience, skill, and intelligence. This fight had become legendary in its own right, a story that would be told across galaxies for years to come. The princess adjusted her strategy again, realizing that direct attacks were no longer enough. She began to use feints and misdirections, combining speed with unpredictability. One moment, she would move to the left, only to spin and strike from the right. She aimed to force the human into making a mistake, to create an opening that she could exploit. But he remained calm, almost unnervingly so. Each time she tried to trick him, he responded with subtle, precise adjustments. His focus never wavered. His composure remained unshaken. The princess felt a mixture of frustration and admiration. This human was unlike any opponent she had ever faced. As the battle intensified, the arena seemed to shrink around them. The pier, space between obstacles, rocks, and glowing markers, became a dynamic part of the fight. The princess used the terrain to her advantage, launching attacks from different heights and angles. She moved with the grace of a seasoned dancer, weaving around hazards while keeping her attention on the human. He, in turn, moved like water, flowing around her strikes, using small pivots and careful steps to stay safe while studying her tactics. Neither had the luxury of reckless moves. Every decision mattered. Every moment counted. At one point, the princess executed a high, spinning strike designed to finish the match. Most opponents would have been knocked off balance or forced to retreat. But the human anticipated her attack. He sidestepped at the perfect moment, letting her momentum carry her past him, and prepared for the next exchange without losing a beat. The crowd erupted in applause, recognizing the incredible skill on display. The princess herself felt a rush of both surprise and respect. For the first time, she realized that brute strength and speed alone could not secure victory. To beat him, she would have to think several moves ahead, adapt constantly, and maintain her composure under pressure. The human didn't attack aggressively. He understood the importance of timing. He moved with patience, waiting for the right opportunity, not rushing into conflict. This approach frustrated the princess at first because it prevented her from achieving an immediate advantage. But gradually, she began to understand it. She recognized that his calm demeanor, careful observation, and calculated movements were not weaknesses. They were his strengths. Every dodge, every step, every subtle shift of his body demonstrated not only skill, but intelligence. He was not just surviving. He was learning from her in real time, adapting to every tactic she employed. The battle continued with increasing intensity. Both fighters were pushing themselves to the limit, each move requiring focus, precision, and endurance. Sweat gleamed on their skin. Breaths came faster, heavier, yet neither faltered. The princess launched a flurry of strikes, each one a test of his speed, reaction, and composure. He met each challenge with calm control, deflecting attacks, dodging, and occasionally countering with small strategic strikes that kept her on guard. It was a duel of mental and physical skill, a test of patience, intelligence, and determination. Gradually, a new feeling began to form between them: mutual respect. The princess, once certain of her superiority, now saw the human as an equal. She recognized his strength, intelligence, and patience, and, for the first time, she felt challenged in a way that excited rather than frustrated her. She no longer saw him as an inferior being. She saw him as a worthy opponent, someone who demanded her full attention and skill. The human, in turn, respected her incredible abilities, her experience, and her determination. There was no arrogance, no condescension, only recognition of what each could bring to the battle. The audience could sense the shift in energy between the two warriors. The fight was no longer about dominance or pride. It was about skill, endurance, and mutual understanding. Each movement, each exchange of strikes reflected respect as much as challenge. Spectators leaned forward in awe, feeling the intensity and significance of what they were witnessing. This was more than just a fight. It was a lesson in honor, patience, and the power of recognizing an opponent's true capability. The princess launched one final powerful series of strikes, combining speed, strength, and creativity. She tested every skill she had learned in years of training. The human responded with equal precision, dodging and deflecting each move while maintaining calm focus. The battle had reached its climax, a point where neither could gain a clear advantage. Both were exhausted, yet neither would yield. The audience could feel the tension, almost holding their breath as every motion became more critical. Every swing, step, and block mattered in this final stage of their duel. In a brief moment of stillness, the princess paused and looked directly at the human. Her breathing was steady, her gaze intense but not hostile. She had come into this battle expecting a quick victory, yet she now understood that she was facing a truly remarkable opponent. Her respect for him had grown immensely. The human, sensing the acknowledgement in her eyes, remained calm and composed. He didn't gloat or boast. He simply recognized the mutual respect that had formed between them. At that moment, the battle transformed. It was no longer a contest of who could defeat whom. It had become a display of equality, understanding, and admiration. Both fighters pushed each other to the limit, learning from one another, adapting, and growing stronger with every exchange. The crowd, captivated by the intensity and skill, realized they were witnessing something extraordinary, a duel that transcended species, strength and pride. It was a clash of equals, a moment of respect forged through challenge and perseverance. As the exchange of strikes slowed slightly, both the princess and the human seemed to recognize the unspoken truth. This battle was not about humiliation, dominance, or victory alone. It was about honor, growth, and the respect that comes from facing a worthy opponent. Each knew that the other had earned this acknowledgement through skill, patience, and determination. And as they continued to move and adapt, the intensity of the fight remained, but now it carried a deeper meaning, a shared understanding that true strength is measured not only in power, but in the ability to respect and challenge another. The final moments of the battle arrived with an intensity that held the entire arena in a tense silence. Both the alien princess and the human warrior were exhausted, their movements slower but no less precise. Sweat dripped from their foreheads, and their breathing came in deep, measured gasps. Yet neither showed any sign of backing down. The fight had lasted far longer than anyone had expected, transforming from a quick demonstration of power into a true test of skill, patience, and resilience. Every spectator, from the closest seats to the farthest tiers, was on the edge of their seat, eyes wide and hearts pounding with anticipation. The princess raised her blade for what seemed to be the final strike, but there was no arrogance in her eyes now, only determination and respect. The human met her gaze steadily, holding his stance with quiet confidence. He had anticipated many of her moves, but he knew that her final efforts would be her most challenging. Instead of rushing or acting recklessly, he waited, focusing entirely on timing, positioning, and the flow of the fight. Both were aware that this moment could define the outcome, but neither sought to humiliate or dominate the other. Their battle had become more than a fight. It was a mutual test, a contest of endurance, intelligence, and honor. The princess attacked with a flurry of strikes, faster and more forceful than anything she had used before. Each movement was calculated, aimed to break through defenses, yet the human responded with calm, almost serene precision. He dodged, blocked, and shifted with fluidity, letting her attacks pass without losing balance or control. Each deflection was a testament to his patience and observation, and each counter, though subtle, reminded the princess that he was no ordinary opponent. Slowly, she realized that she had underestimated him from the very beginning, and in that realization came not frustration, but admiration. For a moment, the two fighters stood facing each other, weapons ready, eyes locked. The arena seemed to fade away, and the spectators held their collective breath. The princess saw in the human's gaze a quiet determination, an intelligence and resilience that few could ever match. She felt a newfound respect, acknowledging, silently, that this human had earned her recognition through skill, patience, and courage. Likewise, the human looked at her and understood the depth of her abilities, the strength that had made her one of the most feared warriors in the galaxy. Neither needed words. Their mutual understanding was clear in their stance, their eyes, and their controlled movements. Then, slowly, the human lowered his weapon slightly, a gesture that was not submission, but acknowledgement. It was a recognition that neither could claim complete victory over the other, at least not without risking the integrity of the battle itself. The princess mirrored the gesture, easing her grip while still remaining ready. The crowd erupted, first in stunned silence and then in cheers and applause. They had witnessed something remarkable, not just a fight, but a transformation. What began as a test of strength and skill had evolved into a demonstration of respect, intelligence, and true mastery. The arena gates opened to allow the combatants to step aside, and as they did, the princess approached the human, offering a hand. It was a gesture of honor, of recognition, and of newfound respect. The human accepted it, his own expression calm and composed, reflecting mutual acknowledgement rather than triumph. In that simple exchange, a story was told, one of courage, skill, humility, and respect across species and worlds. Spectators cheered not just for a battle well fought, but for the example it set. That true strength lies not only in power, but in intelligence, patience, and the ability to honor one's opponent. After the fight, the princess retreated to a quiet area behind the arena, still catching her breath but with a thoughtful expression. She reflected on what had just occurred. For the first time, she had faced a human and recognized that appearances could be deceiving. This human had not relied on brute force alone, nor had he tried to impress with flashy attacks. Instead, he had focused on strategy, patience, and careful observation. She realized that true combat skill was not just about power, but about understanding, adaptability, and respect for one's opponent. The experience left her inspired, humbled, and intrigued. The human, too, took a moment to reflect. He had come into the fight knowing the odds were against him, expecting to face a legend with unmatched abilities. Yet through focus, patience, and careful strategy, he had survived, adapted, and even impressed one of the galaxy's greatest warriors. He felt satisfaction, not just for surviving, but for proving that determination, intelligence, and calm focus could match raw power. He also understood the respect he had earned from the princess, a recognition more valuable than any victory in a single fight. News of the battle spread quickly. Across planets and stars, stories circulated of the human who had faced the alien warrior princess and matched her skill. The tale inspired many. Humans who doubted themselves learned that intelligence, patience, and preparation could rival strength. Alien warriors recognized that skill and strategy could exist in any form, even among species they underestimated. The fight became legendary not because one side had defeated the other, but because it demonstrated the power of respect, mutual understanding, and the value of facing challenges with intelligence and composure. Over time, the bond formed through the battle deepened. The princess and the human continued to respect one another, occasionally training together and exchanging insights into combat, strategy, and discipline. What had started as a confrontation had turned into a partnership built on mutual respect. The lessons learned in that arena shaped both of them, helping them grow as warriors and as individuals. And though the galaxy continued with its conflicts and challenges, the story of that remarkable battle remained a shining example of what true skill and courage could accomplish. In the end, the human returned to his life quietly, without fanfare, but with the satisfaction of having faced one of the most formidable opponents imaginable. The princess returned to her duties, her perspective forever changed, now understanding that strength and skill could be found in unexpected places. Both carried with them the memory of a battle that was not about victory or defeat alone, but about honor, patience, intelligence, and the mutual respect that comes from truly recognizing the worth of another. The arena emptied, but the echoes of that battle lingered. Spectators left with stories to tell, inspired by the extraordinary duel they had witnessed. The human and the princess had demonstrated that courage, skill, and respect could cross boundaries of species, culture, and expectation. And though neither had defeated the other completely, both had emerged stronger, wiser, and more aware of the power of true understanding and recognition. That day, the galaxy learned that sometimes the greatest victories are not measured by who falls, but by who rises through respect, skill, and courage.